Okay, I have 8 different questions, and then we'll just go down the questions, and some of them I have, like, facts behind them, and some of them are opinion-based, okay?
Okay.
So the first question is, do pharmaceutical companies suppress cures for profit? The conspiracy claim is that Big Pharma hides or suppresses cures, like for cancer, to keep patients relevant on the long-term treatments. The fact that is behind this is that developing drugs is expensive, but companies profit from treatments, but there is no evidence existing of cure suppression. Regulatory agencies like the FDA, EMA, and others require transparency in clinical trials. What is your opinion on this?
Well, my opinion on it is that they're not, as doctors, as a whole community across the United States, with the pharmaceutical being connected to the doctors, I believe that they don't educate the customers, the sick people, on what they've got or what they need to cure themselves. So I believe they do just run it as a, I don't know how you'd word it, but I believe they run it in a way that it's for profit. They don't want them healed. They want to just kind of nurse them along with band-aid type, not cures, but band-aid type things that kind of patch them, but they don't heal the people from
Yeah.
the diseases that they have, for example, like cancer. But when it really comes down to it, if they were really looking at trying to cure the people, they'd have to look at something deeper, what the person's lifestyle is, what's in their what is setting up the chemistry in their body to have the cancer.
Hmm.
Because in all actuality, I don't think there's a medicine that will work if you don't set up the right atmosphere and the right conditions in the person's body with, you know, uh, movement. It doesn't have to be exercise per se, but the diet and what they drink and eat, everything that they drink and eat has to be controlled if you're really going to go out and attack something, a
Yeah.
disease the person has. And I think that the doctors and pharmaceutical companies are going at it in the total wrong way. They don't ever really think or ask what the customers or what the sick people or why they're sick or what they're eating, what's their daily habits. Do they have any movement? Do they have a lot of movement in their life? Do they just sit around or lay around? What are they eating? So I believe they're just stringing them along because I have a totally different view on how the diseases should be um, attacked.
Hmm.
And you look at what the person's doing from a foundational point, with their emotions, with their energies, with their body movement, with their what they're taking in for liquids and food. It's
Yeah.
all has to be considered because it's all setting up, or it's either healing or hurting them.
Yeah. So you do think that the pharmaceutical companies, their suppressing isn't necessarily like they're not saying, oh, you don't have cancer. They're just saying, okay, let's do this radiation, let's do this treatment, let's do this to suppress the symptoms, not necessarily get the root cause of the issue.
Yeah, I don't think they're going. I mean, there's so much vagueness in the people. I've talked to a lot of different people. Mostly, I'm talking to people that are sick or that are people that know doctors or nurses. I'm not talking to actual doctors or nurses. But the general consensus that I get from the whole industry is they string people along on a faith hope of their medicine curing them. These people with them, the people I work with, and I consider them family. I hear them have ailments and illnesses and things. I know things that could help them, but they'd have to have the discipline and the means and the money to buy the whole foods and to take, on the discipline to do that and have the consistency to do it. But the doctors and the nurses in general, from a vagueness, and I say a vagueness because I don't know if they're doing it from a profit point where they know they're getting over on people, or they're just genuinely thinking they're trying to heal people, but they're not, or they're ignorant. I don't know the exact standpoint. I'm not God, so I don't know each person, but I know the general consensus across the um, the health industry from the people I talk to at my work and friends that people I come in contact with in life is that They want to trust the doctors. They want to trust those cures that they give them, the medicines that they give them. And I think the doctors and nurses are stringing them along, or maybe they're not stringing them along, and they think that's really helping them. But in actuality, it's not. And I really do bring them along from the big picture, the people that are making the most money and profits. From the people, the CEOs, the people in the offices that aren't meeting the customers that are sick. I think they know what's going on. I think they're getting over on people. They're selling cures, a hope for cure, for such big profit, and it's not curing people. You've got to get people to wake up and understand how to heal themselves to start with.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's got to get healed in a different way because they're at different stages of depth of autoimmune, or their body attacking itself, or the inflammation, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it comes down to whole foods and trying to get a person on track with what they're eating and drinking to be healthy, because what you eat and drink, it should be your medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not, there's no medicine that's going to help you.
Yeah. To your point with that, to talk about drugs, at least in the United States, with you mentioning like CEOs and the higher up people knowing that like they know what they're doing and they're making a profit off of it, do you think that drug prices are inflated intentionally to maximize prices? It's thought that prices are kept higher even when the cheaper option is available, and this is like prevalent throughout the US, with most prices, for example, at least insulin is 10 times more expensive in the US than it is abroad.
I don't really think I have a lot of research or education on that, but my educated opinion on it would be that yes, they are going to go and gouge and go as high as they can, because you've got a lot of greedy. I believe, and I know this is very, to some people, might be a very conspiracy type theorist type standpoint, but I really believe that the CEOs and the higher ups that have a lot of money in this, in these industries across the United States, from the big farm to the FDA, different things being approved that are, kids and humans are allowed to eat in this country. I believe those higher ups uh, will really want the prices to go up, because there's a whole connection of a whole circle of an event of businesses that are connected. You've got everybody there making lots of money, the big CEOs and the big shots that don't meet the sick customers. And you've also got all the big CEOs and big shots of all the other companies, not only just big farm, but the FDA and the food industries, the food manufacturers. They're all in cahoots with each other, because they make all these poisonous foods across the United States that they allow these people to eat, that they say that they're food, but they're not even really food. All these put in grocery stores. So I believe they're all connected. I believe that they all gouge. I believe that, yes, they do gouge, because then the insurance companies are connected also. So yeah, your poor people may not get the medicines, or may have a harder time getting the medicines, but a lot of the middle class across the United States that has their insurance, they're going to get gouged, and their medicine prices are going to be high, because they're going to try to. I believe they're going to try to do as much as they can to get as much money as they can. It's just what they've been doing since they were, when they started making these medicines. Starting with Rockefeller, the rich mogul.
Mm-hmm. With that, I know that at least the way our family is, we use a lot of like natural medicine. So, why do you think that natural medicine has been so suppressed and looked down upon by the mainstream pharmaceutical industry?
Well, I've studied a little bit of this, and I've watched videos and read about it. It starts with the rich mogul Rockefeller, and it has to do with, in the early 1900s, roughly 100 years ago or more, actually more than 100 years ago, in the very early 1900s, he spread a rumor across the United States, everywhere, that everything natural from the earth was like from witchcraft, that it was witch doctory, that it wasn't good for people, that what was better was his scientific pharmaceutical medicines that were going to be the new future of healing and the new future of medicine. And they were giving no care into what natural would. They made the natural seem like it was evil, and they did that because they knew that the natural really healed people, and they would have no benefit or profit.
Wait, you clicked out.
I believe they want the people controlled. I believe they want them sick. And the whole connection, the whole loop with that is that you've got doctors that are trained on very little nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a huge pharmaceutical company that makes massive amounts of money from drugs that do not heal people. You've got grocery stores that are full of processed foods that are just basically, it's, you can't say it any other way. They're not real.
Mm-hmm.
People's bodies do not know how to digest them. When people are eating these foods in the middle of the grocery stores, their bodies are attacking themselves. Their bodies are developing all kinds of autoimmune diseases. It happens to every human that eats this junk. It's not real food. And then these companies know it. The FDA is connected with the big farm. The big farm is connected with the grocery stores or the companies making these foods, you know, your Nabisco and your Pepsis and your Coca-Cola and your Mars candy bars, or just all the people manufacturing all these foods. Kellogg's and just all the different ones. But anyhow, I believe they're all connected. I believe they're all gouging. I believe they're all using everything that they're doing, because the foods they're putting into people and making them sick are making people where they can't even think as well for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a whole system set up to control people and keep them kind of mummified or kind of zombified or kind of not thinking for themselves. The things, the natural herbs, the natural cures, and natural medicines that they made seem evil and witch doctory across the United States over 100 years ago are things that would really, really actually heal people, that would really actually bring stability to people that have seizures, that would reverse seizures and heal seizures, make people not have seizures. Reverse all kinds of problems within people's bodies, coming from their brains to their heart, to their circulatory system, to their lungs, to their bones, to everything. It has to do with the nutrition that's in the whole foods that aren't pasteurized, that aren't destroyed, that aren't heated. It's all connected.
Mm-hmm.
The United States government knows all these things, and they're all connected with all those companies and all those big divisional entities that we just talked about. I believe it's very much evil. I believe it's very much for profit, and I believe they very much gouge to make the money where they can, because they know the middle class has insurance, and
Mm-hmm.
they know where the blood can be drained from, the money can be drained from. And I know that sounds pretty harsh, but I really believe it's all true. And I've been looking at this stuff for a good 12, 15 years.
Yeah. With that, I guess kind of moving into, do you think that we've already covered with like medications and with that kind of stuff, but do you think that vaccines are profit driven scams? Like vaccines are pushed for corporate gain, not public health?
I do, and I don't know to what degree. I can't imagine that every single vaccine would be purely evil. I can't imagine that. But I'm not too far off from imagining that, because the things that they put into these vaccines, I mean, the ingredients they put into these things, there's things like formaldehyde, mercury. I mean, these are poisons to the human body.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it doesn't make any other sense other than they're trying to hurt or harm people. And I have to claim that, some years ago, probably 20 years ago, I was very ignorant when it came to vaccines, and I was almost still every once in a while taking a flu shot, not realizing what I was doing to myself. But I'm thinking probably about at least 17, 18 years ago, I stopped taking any kind of vaccine. I stopped doing the flu shots every once in a while, because my body shop, the work places I was working at, would offer it for free.
Mm-hmm.
They say, hey, we do these flu shots for free. The doctors are coming in and giving them. But studying what's in the vaccines, I don't think that, in my opinion, I don't think, and I don't have a scientific degree, but I just don't think the ingredients in these vaccines have anything to do with trying to protect or heal a person from any kind of a virus or illness out there. I just hear the horror stories and the problems from the vaccines. And I wish I never had any vaccines. I wish my family, you as my daughter, my son, my wife, I wish none of us ever had any vaccines. I wish we could go back and live it, as an Amish person, from all good whole foods and never have any vaccines.
No.
I've learned to fully think for myself, and I've learned to fully heal myself. I'm off of everything pharmaceutical, and I don't see myself ever going back to pharmaceuticals if I can keep eating the good farm whole foods that aren't pasteurized.
With that, do you think that pharmaceutical companies create diseases to sell treatments? Like, for example, like social anxiety disorders or restless leg syndrome, which are primarily new issues that people are seeming to have, or at least issues that the medical field is picking up on people?
Well, I know that a lot of ailments and problems that people have within their bodies are coming from mostly from a physical source. They're coming from nutritional deficiencies.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also another attack on our bodies and our systems and our whole bodies. Our body is very electrical. And our body being very electrical, it's attacked by all of these massive radiation rays that are coming from these very high-powered towers that are powering these phones that we're talking on right now. So I know that's causing a lot of the nervous problem issues within our bodies, within our nervous systems, within our brains. I know a lot of the foods that, again, this country is set up to help the American people be nutritional deficient. If they're nutritional deficient, they're going to go to the doctors. They're going to try their pharmaceuticals. Mm-hmm. It's a big game. It's a big game to them. I think it's very sick, and it's very disheartening as a human that you live in a country where your government's trying to hurt you as far as the foods and the doctors and all these different things. Luckily, God willing, I fell into some doctors that were more holistic. Dr. Buston and Dr. V. I don't know how to pronounce her whole name. I think it's Villera. Mm-hmm. Villera. They were very helpful in suggesting the last 15 or 20 years of my life when I was going to doctors, years ago, that I needed to eat better, healthier, this, that, or the other. But I don't know if they're per se making diseases out there for people, but I know they're setting up the body to be diseased easily with the way that they're setting up the foods to be nutritionally deficient when they pasteurize. Even when it comes to spices, and not even just talking about pasteurized butter or pasteurized milk, talking about the spices that you buy in most grocery stores. Most of those spices that people are buying to fuel their foods, to heal their foods, to give them medicine in their food, those spices have been what's called irradiated. Mm-hmm. And that irradiation that they do to them is in the name of just like pasteurizing. It's supposed to kill pathogens and kill bad, bacteria and E. coli's and things. But for the most part, if people are educated and they take care of their food products properly, you're not going to have problems with the raw butter and the raw milk and the pure natural herbs and spices that can heal you. But the government knows that. And that's why they go overprotecting everybody, saying we're, in the name of science, we're protecting everybody. We're pasteurizing your food. We're irradiating your herbs so they can't have pathogens and things that could hurt you. But what they're really doing is they're taking the healing power out of the food. The healing power that's in this food is off the chart. People don't need medicine. They need whole, natural, unpasteurized food. Mm-hmm. And our country knows that. And yes, it's tied in to the vaccines. And yes, it's tied into the doctors that have very little nutritional training. And yes, it's tied into the food industry that makes all these freaking fake foods. And yes, it's tied into the phones and the radiations and all these different things. There's so many different things they could do in this country that would improve our health. Even when it comes down to even what we wear on our bodies, mm-hmm. to what the materials of the clothes that we're wearing can be detrimental to our health. We should be wearing natural, organic cotton clothes. We should be wearing clothes that can breathe, that are natural, made from things that are healthy from this earth, not from plastics that go into our body that can hurt us, mm-hmm. from types of like poly, whatever type of plastic clothes that can just rub into our bodies from being heated and sweating. So there's so many things that this country, from so many different ways, wants to attack our bodies to make us unhealthy. It's more than just creating diseases. It's making our bodies not letting our immune systems work properly, from our clothes to our food to the vaccines to the healthcare. Just it's all set up to hurt us, I believe, for profit on their end. They're making profit at our expense.
So with that, do you think that industries like the FDA and well, the FDA regulates like your Kellogg's and your Coca-Cola and all those things. So do you think that the FDA is too closely linked to the pharmaceutical and medical industry?
Yeah, they're in their pockets for profit on the backside, I believe. I mean, it's just they're connected. They're rubbing each other's backs. They're like dirty politicians. They make a lot of money, and I guarantee you, the ones that are educated, their families aren't eating that crap. Mm-hmm. They're eating good, whole nutrition foods from the farms, the stuff that really heals you, the stuff that God designed to heal us. And those foods that they're making that are hurting our kids, they're giving these ADHD diseases and these attention deficits, and they can't concentrate. They've shown studies on these little kids where they haven't had these dyes in their foods and they're calm and they can listen and pay attention. Mm-hmm. They put a couple of these dyes in their foods, all of a sudden they're bouncing off the walls. They can't pay attention and they think they need these pharmaceutical drugs. They don't, because those pharmaceutical drugs are going to cause massive psychological changes and rewiring in their brains that it's not healthy. Mm-hmm. I was on them. I was on them for 25 years, and I've been off of them for 2.5, and I'm telling you, it's not good.
With that, do you think, I mean, at least from my experience and you hearing from my experience going over to Italy and the issues that I have here, and then going there and not having those similar issues, I feel like is kind of relevant to this. Why do you think that the US is so much worse than other parts of the world in some aspects with health?
I mean, I think it has to do with they really pushed way too far in this country. If you look at it, it's so obvious the way they're all connected, all the companies we've been talking about. Mm-hmm. And the food is so much worse in this country. There's foods in this country that are illegal, like Mountain Dew. Mountain Dew is illegal for them to sell in certain countries. That's how bad it is when you drink it. It's like drinking straight poison. Mm-hmm. It's like drinking antifreeze almost. And there are so many foods in the United States that are allowed, again, because of the FDA, because they're crooked, because they're connected to the big pharma companies. Because when Big Pharma gets all these customers getting all these big pharmaceutical drugs and the insurance companies are paying for them, the kickbacks are going to the FDA. That they're allowing these poisonous foods across the country. And that stuff doesn't happen over there, like in Italy, for example, where you were. You had foods over there that didn't hurt you because they were good, wholesome foods from the earth, foods that God describes in the Bible. There's not foods in like Wise or Wegmans or Giant or Shoppers in this country in the middle of this grocery store. The foods that they say are foods in there, those foods aren't mentioned in the Bible. Those type of ingredients. When the Bible mentions bread is the most mentioned food in the whole Bible from front to back. But the bread that the Bible mentions isn't the bread that you find in the grocery store. Mm-hmm. The bread in the grocery store is set up to get people addicted to sugar. Yeah. It's just like sitting there eating a big bowl of sugar.
With that, I pulled up a few facts just based on the US, and to your point earlier from how everything is like fed together with money-wise and all that, it is proven fact that the FDA receives a significant amount of funding from user fees paid by drug companies. About 45% of its budget is from drug evaluation. And then looking at some facts just about the US has about 42% of US adults, according to the CDC in 2023, were considered obese, and our ultra-processed diet is contributed to that, and only 1 in 4 adults meet the recommended exercising guidelines, and not even to mention drug and alcohol use. So do you think that all has to do with it as well?
Can we do the question one more time? I paid attention to everything you were saying through the middle and the end, but what's the question?
The question is just like, do you think that has like a huge factor into it? Like everything you were saying, like, do you think that it's it's pointing to why we have a 42% obesity rate in the US and
Well,
why
yeah.
only 1 in 4 adults get the recommended exercise that they typically are supposed to get.
Okay. So I have a lot of experience with inflammation. I have a lot of experience with movement and exercise over the last several months or the several years, last 5, 10, 15 years of my life.
Mhm.
So I have a lot of experience of what foods do to the inside of your body, how they make you feel, how they make you feel restricted. They make you feel blocked. They make you feel like things aren't flowing properly. And that has to do with your motivation to move or exercise also, because if you're eating foods that are constantly making you feel bloated and making you feel blocked where things don't want to function right, it makes you not want to move.
Mhm.
It makes you not want to exercise. So I think, yes, all the things in the country are set up to make people fail on a very exponential way and a very exponential type of situation in so many different ways. So the obesity problem in the United States is from people eating fake foods that a body doesn't know what to do with. So when it goes into the body, it blocks the body's chemical biological functions. It blocks the chemistry and makes your body all screwed up and attack itself.
Mhm.
And then things don't flow right. You don't feel right. Your blood doesn't flow right. You get sick. The detoxification of your organs and things that are supposed to take place once a day, every day, those things are backing up. They're not working properly. People eat way too much. They make their bodies try to digest food way too much. People are not educated on trying to take care of themselves. There's so many things in the United States that is set up to make people fail. They teach people to eat all day long from when they get up till they go to bed. They don't teach people to healthily, fast, a certain amount. So their body has a processing time to where they aren't digesting food and they have some healing time. There's so many things set up in this country. Yes, obesity across this country is set up and linked in with all the things we've been talking about. And yes, mostly from the FDA because they're approving this junk. It's not safe for humans to consume. It's causing all kinds of problems.
Yeah.
When you eat a clean whole foods diet, that I know I keep referring to farms, but it's the easiest way to get the point across. If you're drinking unpasteurized milk and eating unpasteurized butter and eating good grass-fed cow red meat or good grass-fed chickens and eating their eggs and that type of whole foods, if you eat that for several weeks or several months and get a consistency under your belt, and you go back to eating some of this stuff in the grocery stores, that's even close to real food, you'll still have problems because that food in the grocery stores is set up to make people fail. It's set up, it's so easy, it's so convenient, it has such a long shelf life because when it goes into the human body's like, what is this? It doesn't know what to do with it, so it attacks itself. It's like poison.
Yeah.
It's that bad. It sounds pretty severe, but it is that serious.
With all of this, what is one piece of advice you would give someone listening to this podcast?
The advice I would give them, that they would educate themselves on what the body really needs from a basic standpoint. A basic standpoint is the liquid and the solid food you're putting into yourself. It's either going to be healing or it's going to be poison and it's going to be harmful. There's really no in between because the stuff that's in between is still harming you. So think about it. If it's not healing you, it doesn't have a sustainable chance day after day to make you stay away from being sick. If it has harm in you, it's going to eventually cause harm. It's going to eventually cause a problem within the body. The body itself, this is the education I need people to get for themselves to know how to heal themselves, because when you don't eat the right things, you're setting yourself up to fail. Now, is that failure going to happen tomorrow or 6 weeks or 6 months or 6 years from now? That depends on how bad it is that you're doing, but the failure will eventually happen. The only way to stay almost disease free is to educate yourself on how to the basics of keeping the body running on a very consistent basis, to from some fasting standpoint to the type of liquids and food that you're putting into your body. Whole foods are very, very They're just natural. They're not a lot of ingredients.
Mhm.
When you're talking about whole foods from a farm standpoint, you're talking about milk, cheese, butter, the meat and the eggs, and then you're talking about after that you're talking about some spices, and then maybe you're talking about some fruits and some nuts or some things like that. But those are all debatable depending on what person's tastes are or what their body can handle. And then there's all kinds of ways to attack different foods that you might need to look at the list that you can tolerate. But the biggest advice I'd give would go back to the education. You need to learn the basics on how to heal yourself and keep your immune system healthy. Because as a human, if you can't do that, the body is designed, for the sake of this conversation, the body is designed to run on 110 octane race fuel. Most people in the United States are trying to run on 86 to 93 octane type fuel, and they're hurting their body. They're getting detonation. Their body's attacking itself. It's called autoimmune. It's turning into diseases where their body is full-fledged attacking themselves and making where they can't even eat certain foods, and they have like allergies to this stuff. And that's because the blockages is throwing off the chemistry. If you don't have whole foods, if you don't have foods that your body knows how to 100% use, it's not 110% racing fuel. And that's what God designed our body to run on.